Welcome. This is Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap, and I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. I created this show to share resources that help women navigate career and life challenges and to know they're not alone. And each week, my guest and I co-create a show to inspire women to become more confident, resilient, and brave in their careers and indeed in their lives. So if something resonates as you listen or watch and you would like more information, check out the show notes below for various ways to connect with my guest and me. So let me ask you a question. Do you ever feel like an imposter? That you're not qualified for the leadership position you're in or the promotion that you're looking for? You're not alone. Ambitious women like us experience imposter syndrome as we navigate a world that wasn't designed by us. So let's talk about imposter syndrome with my guest, Dr. Ann Whitehouse, a leading expert in female power, a success healer to visionary women, and the best-selling author of Pull Back Your Power. Dr. Ann is here to help us understand and overcome imposter syndrome. Get this, as a former metallurgical engineer, she's going to tell us a little bit about that. Dr. Ann knows firsthand the strain of succeeding in a boys' club world that can cause high-flying women to spiral into burnout. She has spent 2 decades unraveling the hidden power dynamic that still undermines women worldwide and has developed a unique solution called the REPOWER. This solution integrates subconscious reprogramming and subtle energy flow to help you change your power relationship in the world and feel genuinely safe in situations you used to dread. Through Dr. Ann's groundbreaking techniques, you'll learn to speak up, sail through limits, and flourish in the spotlight. And as a result, visibility fears and imposter syndrome disappear, leaving you free to step into your success and impact. So let's hear from Dr. Ann about transforming imposter syndrome. Dr. Ann, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So tell us where you're coming from today.
Well, I'm in Leicester in the UK.
In the UK, okay. All right, so let's get right to it, okay? You started your career as a metallurgical engineer. First, you're going to have to tell us what that means. But I want to know how from that you then unraveled the secrets of imposter syndrome. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right, well, it's quite a story. So I started off as a scientist, and my speciality was looking at, in fact, metal matrix composites and how these new materials break under tensile deformation. And I was what you call a high-flying academic. And I was all set for an academic career. And at the age of 26, I went into an engineering department as a university lecturer. And here's the thing, I started off confident. I knew my abilities. I could do the job just fine, but something happened. So as I went through that door, literally, it felt as if the rug was pulled out from under me. My confidence evaporated and my stress began to go up. And the more I was there, it was as if I had less confidence, even though I could do the job just fine. My belief in myself and my abilities just seemed to evaporate. And here's the thing, I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was happening. So this was back in the late 90s. And I don't think we'd really thought of the word imposter syndrome. It hadn't really been put out there at that time. But looking back, I know that that's exactly what I had. And as time went by, my stress turned into anxiety, which turned into health problems. And basically, over the course of 6 years, my health completely disappeared. I spiraled into a spectacular burnout, and I ended up losing my scientific career completely. And I was left with this one really big question: why had I reacted that way in a career that I could do just fine in terms of the actual things I had to do for the job? Why had that rug been pulled out? So at the time, I was just trying to get my life back, trying to get my strength and my health back. But that took me into this fascinating world of the subconscious mind and how we interact with our environment. And it very soon became clear that it was the subconscious understanding I had of the world, of that environment and me in it, that had created all of this internal stress. And the way I look at it, it's like an elastic band. You're stretching and stretching and stretching, and then something is going to break. And the thing to also understand is that at this point, I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Why couldn't I hack it? Why couldn't I succeed in that career? I failed. That's how I was feeling. But as time went by and I began to unravel those hidden responses, those hidden interactions, and work with a lot of other women, that's when it began to get interesting, because I realized that I was not alone. And the same patterns, the same reactions, and indeed the same subconscious mechanism was going on, not just for me, but for so many other women. And I'm talking about women in law, in medicine, in politics, entrepreneurs, academics like myself, women in finance. It was everywhere. And it was responsible for so many of us having such high stress, having the burnout. And at the root of that, the thing that triggers it all is this imposter syndrome. So that's how it happened. I started off breaking pieces of metal and working with electron microscopes, and I've ended up analyzing in a very scientific exactly how we are influenced and what that happens, or what happens to us and the subconscious level, not our conscious minds, when we go out into the world and we want to succeed.
I am so glad that I'm not happy that this happened to you. Please understand. But I am so happy that you took the opportunity then to figure out for the rest of us what's really going on. Because you're so right. You're not alone. I'm not alone. But these feelings of what's wrong with me, I've failed, are so pervasive among women who are typically really buttoned up, very intelligent, really know their stuff, yet they get into an environment like you did, where it was not designed for them, and it feels like they don't belong. So why is it crucial for us women to overcome this sense of being an imposter?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, we need to have women in the positions of responsibility and power and authority and leadership. It is absolutely essential. We need the balance of our energy out in the world, in every career, in every environment. And what we have is this big block that holds us back, either when you are going through those feelings and you don't understand what's going on, either women, they get so far and then they backtrack because they genuinely believe, I can't do this, I shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough, or they do what I did and keep on pushing through it. And you even see the advice often for imposter syndrome is to push through it. But in actual fact, that makes things worse. And I'll explain exactly why soon. But what happens then is you are pushing yourself into destructive perfectionism and burnout. And even if you are succeeding, you're making your life a living hell. And you're undermining your well-being and your joy and your passion in what you do. And you are still shutting down so many amazing parts of yourself. So whether you are the kind of woman who ends up backtracking and just not doing what you want to do and just staying in the shadows, or you just push through it and suffer, it's not good either way. What we need is for women to feel safe and able to shine out there in the positions of authority, online, being visible, being heard, being seen. It's absolutely essential. And it's this problem that not only stops the world benefiting from everything that we have to offer, it's also responsible for people who are less talented, maybe men who are less talented, getting the positions that we should be in because they have the confidence, and it's just all wrong. We need to overcome that in order to have the freedom to shine and be ourselves. That's the bottom line. And it's not just about the success, it's about the success and well-being. It's got to go together.
Yeah, absolutely. You are so right. I can think of times in my own career where I sat back knowing that I could do it better, or but it was the environment I was in. I was in a very large corporation, male dominated industry, and there were pockets of women in leadership, but there were pockets, and it was in the areas where it seemed like women were okay to be there.
Right. Yes.
So I want to ask you a question. I have heard this many times. I think this is conventional wisdom. It teaches us that imposter syndrome is about self-belief.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're confident, we're okay, right? Self-belief. But you disagree.
I
So
disagree.
I would love to hear what from your perspective, from all of your research, what is really happening to
Right.
us when we feel like imposters?
Okay. So this is it's not only different from what you might expect. It's also incredibly liberating when you have this understanding. So when you're feeling like an imposter, you're say you are going for maybe a promotion, maybe you want to go for a new job, maybe you are completely changing career, maybe you are expanding out online in some way so that you are increasing your impact, your authority. Now, the thing that causes us to feel this way, feel like an imposter, it is not anything to do with our abilities or not believing in ourselves. It's something quite different. Basically, your subconscious is saying you are not safe to be here, right? You are not safe. So the reason it's doing that is that its job is to keep you safe. And unfortunately, even though women have freedoms and rights and opportunities now in the countries that we're in, which is obviously fantastic, the trouble is that the undercurrent, the heritage, all the subtle programming in both us and the people we're with, and the environments, the institutions we go into, all of that hasn't caught up at all. So if you like, we are holding on to a whole load of benchmarks and limitations that are from the past. So your subconscious, it looks at this situation. So using myself as an example, I went there into that engineering environment as a young woman. And it said to itself, right, is it safe for Anne to be here? Is it safe for her to be a scientist, to have authority over men, to be seen, to be heard, to be in this academic environment, to be an engineer? And all of the benchmarks inside were saying no, because all the benchmarks are still deeply rooted in the past. So they're saying, no, in fact, you should be in the background, you should be doing support roles, maybe you should be making the tea, taking the minutes, but you certainly shouldn't be there as the expert. So what happens then? You then go start trying to interact in that environment. And what you start to get is people's knee-jerk reaction to you in that situation. And if you're in a male-dominated place, you are going to get, inevitably, you are not going to be fitting in. And you are going to get comments, and everything there is going to be in the male default, basically. So every time you have an interaction with somebody, your subconscious is saying, you're not safe to be here. You're not safe to be here. So what happens? Subconscious says, goodness, I need to save her. I need to get her out. And what it does is it takes you into a fight or flight mode. Fight or flight. So immediately your subconscious says you're in danger. Your subconscious says you've got to get out of here. You are breaking all the rules because you've gone past all of those limits of what your subconscious thinks a woman should be. So there you are. Your subconscious is in fight or flight, and your power drains away. Your power absolutely drains away from you. And this isn't a belief in your empowerment. I'm talking about actual sort of energetic power. And the way to think about this is that the world literally is like some kind of machine. We're not isolated. We are all connected, and energy flows between people. And when you go somewhere, you are kind of fitting into that power circuit. And if you are not completely comfortable, completely in those benchmarks to be in that place, the power is literally drained from you. So you feel less and less secure, your body feels less and less safe, and your mind begins to tell you, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Because it's trying to get you out, it's trying to make you safe. But the actual fact is that you are good enough. And here's the interesting thing here is this: if you weren't going past all of those old limits, you wouldn't be feeling that way. So what it's actually showing you is that you are more than good enough. You're absolutely more than good enough. And the worse you feel, it proves how far you have come, if that makes sense. And it's like, oh my goodness, I feel terrible. I feel absolutely not good enough, but it's because I've broken all of those barriers.
So a couple of phrases come to my mind as I'm listening to you describe what's happening to us. We're bucking the system, we're breaking the rules, as you say.
Absolutely.
And as a result of us trying, it's like hitting a brick wall. Every time we try to do what we know we can do, and there's another rule, there's another barrier.
There's another limit.
Another limit, right. There's another limit to us. And we think that makes us feel unsafe.
Or more to the point, your subconscious, it's your power drains. You've gone into fight or flight, and we interpret it. I'm not good enough.
Right.
But that interpretation is wrong. What it's actually saying is you are too good here. You've broken the rules. So that's what imposter syndrome is. It's you are too good. You've broken the rules. You're in danger.
Interesting. That's so interesting. All right, so let's talk about the power drain. I have felt it. I talk about this a lot with my clients, stepping back into your power so that you can thrive, right? That's where we thrive, when we are standing in our power.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk about why it is that putting ourselves out there in the world drains our power and triggers the fight or flight. Let's Let's dig under that a little more.
Right. So there are several factors that go into this. One of the biggest things is that there's a heritage all over the world. It doesn't matter what nationality you are, what culture you're from. There's a whole heritage that powerful women are destroyed. Women who go up against the status quo, who have gone up against patriarchy. And yes, we're talking about witch hunts. We're talking about all of that ancient history, but we're also talking about the here and now. And you still see this where a female politician will be attacked far more than a male, or if a female politician says a particular thing, she'll be called arrogant. Whereas if a man says exactly the same thing, he's a leader. This double standard is still there. Women who are in a position of power and are literally holding their power are attacked. And this is a heritage that we are holding as a group consciousness. We're holding it in our ancestry, and a lot of us are holding it in our own personal experience. So that is always giving us this push-pull of, if we want to be in our power, we want to have impact, we want to make a difference, but once we're there, there's, oh my goodness, I'm too powerful. Women who are powerful are destroyed. So that is huge, and that affects everybody. Then you've got things like it's what I describe as kind of the water torture, where you're dismissed, you're put down. I've certainly been asked to make the tea when I was the expert. There was one particular situation where I was giving a presentation, and the men in the room just talked over me and ignored me and I stood there for a whole hour, just unable to do anything because my power had drained so badly. And these things that when people assume you are less than you are, they assume that you are in a support role, the secretary, when in actual fact you're the consultant. And those things give you this message of, you shouldn't be here, you're not as good as us. And that is there. The first few times, or even the first few hundred times, it makes you angry and it makes you determined to prove yourself. But while you're proving yourself, underneath, your subconscious is getting that message: you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here. And it's like this water torture, drip, 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 drip.
Yeah.
And over time, that just accumulates, and it just adds up. And then you have about your personal experience. So these are where the really big things sit. So dealing with this often does require some individual attention, but if you have gone through any kind of abuse or harassment or any kind of sexual trauma, then those incidents are going to be literally frozen in your energy field as big power drains. And that means that you are at an immediate disadvantage, because you're like trying to hold that power together where you've got a big drain because of your experience. So that makes things even worse. And then, of course, there is any woman who has come from a very patriarchal family. Obviously, there are some cultures that are much more patriarchal than others. If you have been conditioned that you are there to serve men, that maybe you haven't been given the opportunities that your brother had, and all that the beliefs that go in around that, again, there's a big power drains. So you put all that together, and we are having to compensate for all of this power that is lacking. There's the power from our past. There's our response when we go into the world and start to get these various experiences. And then there's things like, for example, say you're going out online and you start to get somebody attacking you on your timeline. And all of this, it feels like an attack. And it's cumulative, and it gets worse and worse and worse over time, which is why we can start off feeling confident and powerful, but over time it just all kind of crumbles and leads to the stress and the burnout and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so it's like picking away at our power.
Exactly.
Yeah. It occurs to me that this experience that many of us have requires this legacy you talk about, the heritage you talk about, of so many people, so that we don't walk into those kinds of situations as a matter of course. This is just the way it's been and will forever be. And with feelings like that, when we walk into those situations, things will never change. So how do we change that?
Right. Well, this is the whole point of my work and my mission. So we've got this mismatch between who we are, our abilities, our desire to make a difference, have an impact, and then underneath we've got all of this stuff undermining us and pulling the power away. And that will change. It will change over time. But I don't know about you, I'm not prepared to wait another 100 years for all of that to update naturally, right?
I'm with you.
I want it now. So the key is to understand the process. So as soon as your power begins to drain away, or as soon as you start to feel like an imposter, in the past, you might have thought, I'm not good enough, I need to go and do more training, or I just can't do this at all, I'm just going to back out. But if you have this new understanding that in actual fact, you've just triggered all of this subconscious process, you've gone into that machine which has drained your power, you, instead of stopping or getting stressed, you can say, right, actually, I know what Dr. Ann told me, my power is draining. I need to stop that power drain. And we do have the power to do that. And that's it. It took me many years to unravel this, but it's now, we understand what's really happening. So if we stop the power drain, and that's something you can do with your mind, you stop the power drain and then magnify your power. And this is a mental process. As soon as you do that, you are reversing the process. So what happens then is the power comes back and your subconscious begins to feel safer. And it feels safer and safer as your power magnifies. You're still in that situation, you're still in that meeting, or you're still online, or whatever you're doing, but your power begins to magnify. When you've cut off the power drain, your mind comes out of fight or flight. And when it does that, you immediately feel safer, stress goes down, confidence goes up. And here's the key thing. You then give out a completely different energy. You are then radiating your power, and the people you're with are going to feel that. So you begin to get different reactions from people. So you are literally reversing that power drain, changing it, magnifying your power. So even while we've still got the old programming, even while you've still got your own power drains from your life and your own programming, obviously we do want to change that, and that the big work is doing that so you can then simply be yourself and shine. Before that point, you can stop the power drain and you can change your reaction in those really key situations. So it could be an interview, right? It could be a job interview or presentation, something really important. You can stop the power drain and you can therefore stop feeling like that imposter and instead be the leader.
I love this, because what you have just shared with us tells me that we don't have to educate everyone out there. We have to educate ourselves about how to, when we feel like an imposter, like we don't belong where we are, that we get to change that within ourselves. And that when we do that successfully, when we practice it, and this is going to take practice.
It does take practice, yes.
Right? Yeah. But when we learn how to do it, when we learn how to recognize it and then reverse it, and step out in our power, and people see that, their response to us will change.
Absolutely. So it's as if we are changing the energy. Our automatic energy, our default is the power drain energy. That's what women have inherited. Nobody's fault. it's simply what is at the moment. But when we consciously change the energy we are holding, that is a catalyst which creates a new energy. We're changing the power circuit. And that's going to be far more effective than just telling people they have to treat you in a different way or putting a new directive for equal opportunities. It's this underlying power and energy, the frequency we're holding, which needs to change. And that's what we're doing.
Okay. All right. So, I'm really curious about your transforming imposter syndrome process. So, to tell us more about the process itself? How does it start? How does it work?
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what you would do. So if you're going into a situation that's really important and you are feeling that power drain. So when you feel a power drain, it can be stress, it can be anxiety, it can be I'm not good enough, I'm an imposter, I'm going to fail. All of those feelings, all of that means your power is draining. So I'm just going to talk you through what to do. So you can do this along with me now, or you can make a note and try it later. So what I would invite you to do is close your eyes and imagine yourself in that situation, that key stressful situation where you feel like an imposter. And for a few moments, allow yourself to be there in your mind's eye, in your imagination. And you will begin to feel that power drain. You begin to feel that anxiety, that, oh my God, I'm not good enough. So that is the power beginning to drain away from you. So now I want you to imagine that there's actually a wire that's attached to your chest, your heart, and it goes from you to the other person or the situation. And on that wire is a ball. It's a brightly colored ball of light. And that is the ball of your power. It's drained away, it's gone down the wire, and the other person has the ball. Now, it's yours, right? You need it. You need it. So in your mind's eye, imagine yourself reaching out and grabbing the ball and pulling it back. Now, this is the really important thing. As you pull the ball, it feels really resistant. It's as if the wire is really rough and you've got to really pull it back, pull, pull, pull. And as you do that, you are unlocking your subconscious from the fight or flight. So you imagine pulling it, and it's really hard work. You're pulling the ball along the wire. And as you do so, keep your attention, your focus on the ball. Imagine that it's full of swirling colors and lights, and it's so beautiful and so interesting that you've forgotten all about what's going on over there. So you're holding it and you're pulling it, pulling it, pulling it, and imagine it going right into your heart. And then put your focus in there, right into your heart, and see the ball there. Imagine it, feel it. And you're looking at those colors. And as you do so, as you focus on it, your power is going to begin to magnify. And by this visualization is actually doing a very specific subconscious thing. You don't have to worry about what it's doing, but doing that focus will change the power flow. So your power is beginning to magnify. You can imagine it getting brighter and brighter. And it's going to begin to extend outside your physical body into your energy field, so that you're in fact glowing, a glowing ball of light. And that is you literally in your power, not by a belief, but an energetic process you've gone through. Okay, so that is, it's unlocked the fight or flight, and that is the key. It's unlocked the fight or flight, it's blocked the power drain, and then it's magnified your power. It's reversed that power dynamic. And when you do that, if you then glance over at the person or the situation that you were stressed about, you're going to feel completely different about it, and you're going to be in a different energy. So you would do that, say, several times in the week leading up to an interview or a presentation of something really important. Or if there's a particular person who is always putting you down, you would practice, say once a day, doing that with that person. What you're doing is you're changing your subconscious response. You are training yourself to react in a different way and stop the power drain, hold your power, and magnify your power.
This is so simple.
It's very simple.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant visualization of taking back your power. And I love the way you put it. Once you've taken it back, you get to magnify it, right? So that it can begin to stop the things that the drain caused, right?
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
fight or flight response, the feeling disempowered, the feeling that that you're not good enough, when in reality, when you're holding this in your heart and you're magnifying it, then your confidence soars, your resistance recedes. So many
Absolutely.
things. I can think of so many
Anxiety
things.
goes down, you relax, and of course,
Yep.
when you do that, you perform so much better.
And you feel better,
You
right, about
feel better.
yourself,
Yeah,
so that you can stand in your power and be authentically you.
exactly.
You
And
don't
so
have to
you can then
pretend to be someone else.
you can enjoy doing what you're passionate about instead of it being a nightmare, instead of having to, oh my God, I've got to get through that anxiety because I've got to survive this. It becomes, I love doing what I do and I'm safe to shine as me, not holding
Right.
myself back. And the thing is this, that it's so important to understand. By stopping the power drain, all those beliefs, I'm not good enough, disappear. It was an illusion. It's a complete illusion. It's that subconscious mechanism. And when you're holding your power, suddenly it becomes, you know what? I'm totally good enough. Like, look at my qualifications, look at my experience, look at my
Right.
motivation and my passion. I'm
Absolutely.
so good enough.
Yeah.
But it's all that while we're not holding our power and there's limits of triggering, it's what I said at the beginning. We are too good and it's not safe to be seen to be that good. And that's what is at the root of the imposter syndrome.
So simple and brilliant. Love this. I thank you so much for sharing this very simple visualization exercise that is so powerful. Yeah, that was um, yeah, powerful. It's a good word to use right here, right?
Very much
Um,
so. Very much.
yeah. So it helps us to understand that the power is with us to change the situation,
Mm,
not
yes.
in anyone else's hands.
Right.
It's in our hands.
Right. Because most of the world is working on autopilot. People are not generally, obviously, few exceptions, people are not generally trying to undermine you or hold you
Right.
back at all, but they're on autopilot. They're not aware enough. And this power drain, this power circuit, we've inherited it, we're born into it, we've lived in it. It's so normal, we don't even feel it. It's not until someone says, oh, goodness, this is what is happening. I need to stop this, that we
Yeah.
begin to make a new power circuit.
And everyone else is in their own world, right? They're seeing things their way.
Yeah,
And they may have their own power drains, and they may be
they will.
resisting them in a way that appears to us, because we're responding to our own view of our own perspective of the situation, right? It appears to us that they're trying to undermine us. And that may not be the case at all. So if we each just take back our power and step into it and shine as ourselves, if everybody did that, oh my, what a beautiful
I
world
mean,
it
the
would
world would be
be,
so
right?
different. It would be so different immediately.
Yeah,
It just would be
it would
amazing.
be. It would be. So the clear message from you, Dr. Ann, is that we need to do this for ourselves. It's
Mhm.
all literally in our heads, right? To change.
We
It's
have
in
the
our
power,
heads to change. We have the
absolutely.
power to
So,
change it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So women have phenomenal, amazing power, but the system And the old programming is preventing that from truly being expressed. It's draining all over the place. We've shut bits of it down because we had to for our safety. And it's all about making it safe to then be in genuinely in our power. It's never about pushing through the fear or pushing through the anxiety, because that tells you something is wrong. That tells you that you are not safe. And while you're not safe, you are not going to be free to genuinely shine. You're going to be censoring yourself. You're going to be holding back. You're going to be people pleasing. You're going to be, stress is going to be off the scale. So it's safety is the
Trying to be
absolute key.
perfect. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
of
the
those
safety
things.
comes when we hold the power, and we stop that power from draining away from us.
And recognizing those circumstances in which we feel our power being drained, becoming aware of those quickly is really an important step here, isn't it?
It's huge. It's huge. It's that awareness. So it's getting
Yeah.
out of the autopilot is, I feel like an imposter. I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me? And then either you push or you backtrack. That's the autopilot that, certainly I was on that. That's what made me so ill. But then the awareness becomes, I feel this way, and oh, I know what's happening. I've pushed through limits. My subconscious has gone into fight or flight. I've lost my power. And then it becomes, I don't have to put up with this. I can change it. Step 1, 2, 3. And that's it.
I love that. You just said to yourself, I don't have to put up with this, right? It's in my power to change. That, I think, is the piece that's missing for most women.
Exactly.
That they feel powerless to change it. And that's what's so brilliant about this information you're sharing with us. That's what's so important about it. It's in our power to change.
It is. And this is the thing that's missing from so much, empowerment and coaching and all the rest of it. It's, all those things are so valuable. Of course they are. But you may do all the belief work and all the mindset, but if you've still got no power underneath, you're not going to be safe to get all the benefit from that. You've got to bring the power back and get you that foundation. And then everything else can drop into place. Then you are genuinely safe to move forwards.
Yep. I love this. I'm so glad you are here with us. I'm so glad you have done this work for yourself and now to help others. And there are a lot of people who may need help in doing this. And there are those of us like you and I who are here to help. So this is, it's not something we have to do alone. If we need help, we should look for it. We should seek it,
Definitely.
ask for it. But Dr. Ann has just given us a tool today that we literally can leave here and use for ourselves.
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
This is the start. This is
a start.
Changing everything. And a lot of work has come from that. But while you know how to pull back your power and recognize when your power is draining, that is in itself life-changing. It certainly was for me. When I first did it for myself, it was, oh my goodness, is this what it feels like to be in my power? And at the time, I think I was about 50 or so. And I think all those decades of life, and I had no idea what it felt like to actually have my power. And I thought I was an empowered woman, but I wasn't. I was very forceful and motivated and passionate and very determined, but I was doing all of that while running on empty.
Yeah. While running on empty, that's so important for people to hear, because there are many women whose cups are dry.
Exactly.
And they have nothing left to give. So what's going to happen, of course, is that they physically, emotionally, spiritually will become drained.
They will.
Yeah. All right. Well, we could talk about this for hours. I know we could. But we need to wrap this up. But before we do, I would love for you to kind of tie this all up in a bow for us,
Mhm.
what are the key takeaways? We end every episode with tips or
Yeah.
takeaways from my guest. It's why I call the show Tips for the Transition. So help us with the tie in the bow for us. What's your first takeaway?
Okay, so my first takeaway is when you feel like an imposter, it's actually nothing to do with your abilities at all. It is completely an illusion. When you feel that way, you can immediately disregard it. All it is, it's a signpost that says, I now need to look at my power. And that in itself is absolutely huge.
I love that. That's so it's key, right? It has to start there when
Yeah,
we notice that something is draining our
totally
power.
important.
Yeah, love that. All right, what's number 2?
Okay, so number 2, this is even better. And this is this is thinking about my elastic band analogy. The worse you feel is the proof of how good you are. So the more you are feeling not good enough, the more you're feeling like a failure, the more fear you are experiencing, that is the measure of how far you have come past those old benchmarks. So that shows you, it's the proof of your abilities and your determination and your motivation and your passion and everything. The worse you feel, that's actually the proof of how good you are.
Wow. That's going to take a minute to
Mhm.
sink in.
It does
So
take a minute, but when you get it, it's, oh
the
my
worse,
goodness.
yeah, the worse you feel, the better you
Yeah,
are,
the better you are.
because you've tried so hard, right,
Because you've
to
gone so
prove
far, you've
yourself,
gone so
right?
far past
You've
the
come
limits.
so far. Yes. Yeah, I love that. That's a
Because
great way to look at it.
if you weren't
That's so
good,
empowering.
it is. If you weren't
It
brilliant,
is.
you would have stopped at the limit, right?
Yep.
You'd have stopped
Yep.
at the limit. But because you are so gifted, you've gone way past it. And that mismatch is what makes you feel bad.
Yeah. I love that. I'm certain people are gonna stop and replay this part of this show and listen to that again, and it will be well worth it. Write it down too. All right, what's your third one?
Okay, so the third one is when you feel that you're not good enough, don't push harder. Don't push harder because you're just going to make that mismatch worse and then something is going to break. Instead, you are aware that your power is draining and you do what I taught you. Do that visualization with the ball on the wire. Once your power is back, then you're going to feel safe to simply move forwards, easily, gracefully,
Without pushing.
without pushing.
Yeah, that effort is in and of itself draining you.
That, yes, it's draining and you're just making the problem worse. And
Right.
that's the slippery slope to burnout.
So when you feel like you're doing that, there's another piece of evidence
Yes,
that doing that visualization, now is the time to do that
now is the
visualization.
time. Now is the time.
Beautiful. Love it. Dr. Ann, thank you so much
It's
for
my great
all that
pleasure.
you've shared with us today. It's just brilliant stuff, and I know that it's going to help a lot of women walk away today and think about the situations they're in and the various ways in which their power has been draining slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely,
uh,
yeah.
and hopefully we can put a stop to it now with your beautiful visualization exercise and everything that goes with it. So thank you so much. I know that women are going to be wanting to reach out to you for sure. So can you share with us the very best way for them to do that? And I
Mhm.
think you're going to tell us about a gift you have, right?
I am indeed. So if you want to reach me, the best place is my website, which is feminineconfidence.com.
I love the name of that too.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, feminine confidence, we don't have to be harsh and forceful and masculine and confrontational. We can be feminine and confident and truly amazingly powerful at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about the gift.
Right. So today I've taken you through the very basic step process for the visualization. And what I've got for you is an audio which takes you deeper. So it's a kind of deeper meditation, and it's going to help you to kind of pull the power back from things in your past, maybe relationships, maybe experiences that really upset you or drained you or traumatized you. And by listening to that, you're going to begin to build what I call your power foundation, which is the next step to being able to, to hold the power without this draining process happening. So I hope you enjoy that. It's incredibly powerful. The only thing I would say to you is do not listen to that if you're driving, because it will make you drowsy. That's
No, sitting quietly without operating a vehicle would be a very good
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. That is a beautiful gift for our audience. I appreciate that you offered that to us. All right, we need to wrap this up. Again, Dr. Ann, thank you so much for being
It's
here.
my pleasure. It's been lovely talking with you.
Thank you. And for those watching and listening, I appreciate that you're a part of this community. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, or click a star and let us know what you thought. As I said at the top of the show, I love creating resources and sharing them with women. Plus, as a career and life coach myself, I work with women to help them navigate challenging times more quickly and gracefully. So if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective, let's talk. The links to connect with Dr. Ann and I are, as I said, are in the show notes below. And also there's a link there for you to join my private Facebook group to continue this conversation. It's called the Career Transition Roadmap, link below. And then let's meet again here next Wednesday, as always, because I believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.